Well, tough decisions keep piling up for Rachel, don't they? She gets so burnt out on everything that's been happening that she takes the day off from school and just flies around the city mindlessly. She shows up at Cassie's barn totally out of it. Jake reads her the riot act for her behavior. Markle tells her to cool it, but she flips out and they all lament on how much they've failed to this point. It's at that moment that the Great Gazoo makes his return and decides to give the Animorphs another heaping plate of perspective. He sends the six of them to a desolate wasteland, and after some snooping around, they discover that it's their hometown, a decade or so into the future, and completely renovated by the Yeerks. Yep, it's an Earth where the Yeerks have won, with destroyed buildings, flying magic metro stations replacing the freeways, and most of the plants dying, which seems like a really stupid thing for the Yeerks to cause since they supposedly can't synthesize air. Fortunately, since all humans are now either dead or controllers, the Animorphs can walk the Yeerk-infested streets without much hassle. They make it into the city proper, where the majority of the downtown area has been converted into a giant outdoor Yeerk pool, and the EGS tower, whatever that is, now has a giant reflective dome on it. The Animorphs gain the attention of a controller, but Axe morphs from human to Andalite and pretends to be Visor 3, which works for a few minutes until people realize, hey, wait a minute, Visor 3 got a promotion ages ago, he's Visor 1 now. Also, he's gone through Andalite puberty. On cue, the once Visor 3, now Visor 1 shows up, with, of all people, a 20-something future Rachel. I knew you were coming, the future Rachel said. After all, I was you. Once I stood right where you stand now, and looked just like you look now, and saw myself as I am today. She sounded perfectly calm, but her eyes flickered quickly to Axe, then back to me. Visor 3 shook his head in amusement. If only I had known from the start you were human. For so long I believed you were Andalites, until, at last, we caught you. If you know so much, how did we come to be here, in the future? Marco asked. An illness has brought you here, Visor 3 said. In your own time, you face a choice. The illness has brought you 6 humans, you 5 humans and 1 Andalite, here to show you a future, to show you the future. Soon he will return you to your own time. The Animorphs and the Yeerks have some confusing time travel banter, and Visor 3/1 and future controller Rachel share a good laugh. The future's been written, kids, and it's hopeless. However, when Rachel slips, future controller Rachel lunges to catch her, and Axe instinctively puts his tail blade to her throat. This causes some major confusion on the Yeerks' part, and Rachel manages to piece it together. This wasn't in the script, was it? I asked him. This wasn't supposed to happen. Something has changed. It's Axe, isn't it? You said 6 humans before. That's what you expected to find. That's what Rachel told you would happen. But the future has changed, hasn't it? Something is different. The Yeerks try to play it cool, but the Animorphs realize that the Yeerks won't attack them in fear of changing history. But the Animorphs have no obligation, and Rachel morphs a grizzly bear to attack the helpless Visor 3/1, but the Ellimist pulls them back to the present. It's time to make a choice. We need to think this through, Jake said warily. I shrugged. You think it through. I'm tired of thinking. I was just about to vote when the Ellimist dragged us off to his little show and tell. I was about to be good old Rachel and vote no. I was going to be tough one more time. But I'm changing my vote. I'm not going to end up as a controller. That's not going to happen. Not to me. If that means I'm running away, too bad. I change my vote. You know what? At that moment of surrender, I felt good. I wish I could say I didn't, but I felt a wave of relief wash over me. No more hard decisions. No more danger. No more having to be brave. So the Animorphs decide to accept the Ellimist's offer, but nothing happens. They don't get whisked away in to their personal nature reserve. The Ellimist doesn't even say a word. Wow, what an outstanding godlike being. Hi, I'm the Ellimist, and I'll cure cancer for you if you want. Sure, cure cancer, Ellimist. What? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Cure all the cancer. I'm sorry, did you say something? We're accepting your offer. What offer? Do I know you? You just offered to cure all the cancer. Is someone there? I guess I'm just talking to myself. So the Animorphs, emotionally exhausted, go home. The next day at school, Rachel's history teacher goes on about uncertainty of the future and gives the whole butterfly effect speech, but then starts unexpectedly stuttering. That night, Rachel has a funkadelic dream with lots of imagery concerning cause and effect, and Rachel wakes up suddenly realizing what the Ellimist's game is. The choice thing was a big fat red herring. The first time the Ellimist stopped time, he really wanted them to notice the drop shaft so that they could make an escape. And their little trip to the future was so they could learn the location of the Kandrona, on top of the EGS tower, whatever that is. Oh, that Ellimist, what a fruity guy. So the Animorphs suddenly have a big, viable target, something that could do serious damage to the Yeerks. Reinvigorated with a sense of hope, they realize that if they have any chance of saving the human race, they need to attack this thing now. So the Animorphs slip under the cover of early morning into the EGS tower, whatever that is. After knocking out some security guards, they make their way to the elevator to the top floor, where they find rooms guarded by several Hork-Bajir. Rachel is a bear, Jake is a tiger, Marco is a gorilla, Casey is a wolf, Axe is an Andalite, and Tobias is a hawk. And for the first time in the series, the Animorphs bring the fight to the Yeerks. After a long and bloody battle, the Animorphs make their way to the Kandrona, a car-sized glowing tube, not unlike the thing they kept Zordon in. Rachel morphs Elephant and manages to push the center of the Yeerks invasion out the window, shattering it on the streets 40 stories below. The Ellimist shows up and tells them that they did good, and vanishes. The Animorphs have finally succeeded in doing serious damage, and they are re-energized. They won't be leaving Earth, and Rachel won't be leaving with her father. The fight is too important. Even more important than fictional Olympic gymnastics star Carla Beltnikov. Post-book follow-up. I said in my review of number 2, The Visitor, that Rachel wasn't an interesting enough character to carry her own book. What 5 books of plot development can do to a character, because now she's more than interesting enough. And this book came just in time too. For the last couple of books, characters like Marco have been referring to Rachel as compulsive and violent, calling her things like Xena, warrior princess. But to this point, we never really saw anything to justify that. The dumbest thing she ever did prior to this book was destroy that used car lot, and that whole thing was spearheaded by Tobias. But here we finally get a good look at Rachel's psyche. She's mostly compulsive when nobody is watching, doing things like petting grizzly bears and skipping school. It makes you wonder what kind of off-camera things she's already done in the past books. In past books, the impression is that Rachel is cocky because of extreme confidence, probably instilled by her mother, but this book proves that it's quite the opposite. Rachel is her most cocky and dangerous when faced with overwhelming uncertainty. When in doubt, punch the hell out of it. This book is for Rachel what number 3 The Encounter was for Tobias, what number 5 The Predator was for Marco, and what number 6 The Capture should have been for Jake. And that is largely a justification for the character. Why should we be interested in her? What makes her special? How do these things affect her? It is the final exclamation point on the character. She's done and ready to come out of the oven. Another thing this book brought just in time was victory. For the last 6 books, the Animorphs have either been reactive or failing miserably at being proactive. That makes sense, after all, they're just kids. But if the series simply kept throwing failure after failure at our heroes, things for the reader would feel like they felt for the Animorphs after seeing the Yeerk-conquered Earth. Hopeless. Them bringing the fight to the Yeerks at the end of this book, and being victorious, finally brought a sense of hope for our characters, that there might be a chance. The Ellimist? Yeah, personally, I could take him or leave him. As far as omnipotent beings go, he's pretty dollar store. Out of all the plot lines throughout the Animorphs, the Ellimist one is probably the one I care about for the least. He lacks Q's charisma and doesn't have any of the philosophical weight present in a character like Dr. Manhattan. It's okay here, as it works towards the greater good of developing Rachel and giving the reader some hope, but I personally don't think the character has any strong moments in the entire series, even in the book that's about nothing but him. Fortunately, he's used pretty sparingly throughout the series. Actually, the Ellimist is more interesting in terms of how he operates as opposed to why he operates. I've got a theory concerning the Ellimist's influence in the previous books, but I'm going to hold off on that for another review. Well, grumbles aside, this book is pretty damn strong. I give Animorphs number 7, The Stranger, an 8 out of 10.